I am Dr. Shade. You think the worst kind of pain is betrayal? It's not. The real pain is watching someone emotionally leave you while they're still physically standing beside you. It's noticing the coldness in their voice, the distance in their energy, the silence in places where love once lived, and convincing yourself it's all temporary because accepting the truth feels heavier than the lie. Most relationships do not collapse in one dramatic moment. They fall apart slowly, quietly. Through ignored feelings, missing effort, emotional exhaustion, and patterns people pretend not to notice. That's why the most dangerous problems are never loud in the beginning. They start small. A delayed reply, a colder tone, less excitement, less interest, less presence. And over time, those small changes become emotional walls. One of the first things that changes in a fading relationship is emotional warmth. A person who once couldn't wait to talk to you suddenly sounds distracted. Conversations feel forced. Affection becomes routine instead of genuine. You begin noticing that they no longer reach for you the same way they used to. And while many people blame stress or busy schedules, deep down they can feel the shift is bigger than that. Energy never lies. People can fake words, but they struggle to fake emotional presence consistently. When someone truly values you, you feel it naturally. You don't have to beg for attention or wonder where you stand in their life. Real love creates security. Confusion usually appears when connection starts disappearing. Then comes secrecy. Suddenly the phone stays face down. Messages become private. Schedules stop making sense. They become harder to reach, harder to understand, harder to trust. And every time you question the inconsistency, there's always an explanation ready. Maybe they were tired. Maybe work became stressful. Maybe life just got complicated. And yes, sometimes those explanations are true, but patterns matter more than excuses. Anyone can explain one strange moment. What reveals reality is repetition, repeated distance, repeated coldness, repeated emotional absence. Healthy relationships survive problems because both people stay emotionally transparent. When secrecy becomes normal, emotional safety begins to disappear. Another sign people often ignore is irritation. Suddenly, everything becomes a problem. Your words annoy them. Your presence frustrates them. Simple conversations turn into arguments for no clear reason. And the worst part is that you slowly start blaming yourself for their behavior. This happens because unresolved guilt and emotional conflict often transform into frustration. Instead of communicating honestly, people project their inner chaos onto the person closest to them. They criticize more. They complain more. They create emotional tension instead of emotional connection. And many people react to this the wrong way. They try harder. They become more patient, more available, more understanding, hoping extra effort will save the relationship. But love cannot survive on one-sided energy forever. You cannot force emotional connection out of someone who has emotionally disconnected from themselves first. Sometimes the opposite happens too. Instead of becoming cold, a person suddenly becomes overly affectionate. More compliments. You're, they, and more attention, more emotional behavior than usual. And while this can sometimes be genuine, forced affection often feels different from real love. Real love is calm and natural. Guilt often feels exaggerated and performative. That's why emotional consistency matters more than temporary emotional intensity. Anyone can act loving for a few moments. The real question is whether their behavior consistently creates peace, trust, and emotional safety. One of the deepest forms of pain in relationships is emotional absence. This is when someone is physically there, but mentally somewhere else completely. They sit next to you, talk to you, maybe even touch you, but the emotional connection feels empty. Their attention feels disconnected. Their energy feels distant. And no matter how much effort you give, you feel alone beside them. That loneliness hurts more than arguments sometimes. Because at least arguments show emotional involvement. Emotional absence feels like slowly disappearing in front of someone who no longer truly sees you. Many people stay in emotionally empty relationships because they fear starting over. They fear loneliness. They fear accepting that something beautiful has changed. So instead of facing reality, they hold on to memories of how things used to be. But memories cannot replace present reality. A relationship survives through effort in the present, not emotional attachment to the past. Then there are the inconsistencies, strange behavior, late replies, unexplained absences. stories that change slightly every time they're repeated. And while no relationship should be destroyed over assumptions, repeated confusion should never be ignored either. People often wait for perfect proof before trusting their instincts, but life rarely gives dramatic evidence immediately. Most truths reveal themselves slowly through repeated behavior patterns. Human behavior always exposes emotional reality eventually. Still, maturity is important. Not every sign means betrayal. Not every emotional shift means someone stopped loving you. People struggle silently sometimes. Stress, anxiety, emotional exhaustion, depression, and unresolved personal problems can also affect relationships deeply. That's why reacting with uncontrolled anger usually destroys clarity. Real strength comes from observation, calm communication, emotional intelligence, and boundaries. Instead of immediately accusing someone, pay attention to consistency. Pay attention to actions instead of promises. Pay attention to whether the relationship still feels emotionally safe and mutually valued. And most importantly, never abandon your self-respect trying to hold on to someone emotionally unavailable. Love should never require you to lose your dignity. A healthy relationship may involve struggle, but it should never constantly destroy your peace of mind. Too many people confuse attachment with love. Attachment says, I can't lose this person. Real love says, both people should feel valued, respected, and emotionally safe. There's a difference between fighting for a relationship and sacrificing your emotional health to keep one alive alone. Sometimes relationships can heal. Honest communication can rebuild trust. Effort can repair emotional distance. People can reconnect when both individuals genuinely want growth and honesty. But healing only works when both people participate equally. One person cannot carry an entire relationship forever. And if you constantly feel emotionally drained, emotionally confused, and emotionally unseen, you must stop ignoring your inner voice. Intuition exists for a reason. Your emotions notice changes long before your mind fully accepts them. The hardest truth many people face is realizing they stayed too long in situations that continuously hurt them because they feared letting go. But staying in a relationship without trust slowly destroys confidence, peace, and emotional stability from the inside out. At the end of the day, your peace matters. Your mental health matters. Your emotional well-being matters. Never become so desperate to keep someone that you forget your own worth in the process. Because the saddest betrayal is not always what another person does to you. Sometimes the saddest betrayal is ignoring your own pain for too long while pretending everything is fine. Real love should bring clarity, not constant confusion. It should bring emotional safety, not endless anxiety. It should make you feel valued, not emotionally invisible. And remember this carefully. Walking away from emotional disrespect is not weakness. Choosing self-respect is not failure. Sometimes protecting your peace is the strongest decision you will ever make. I am Dr. Shade, and sometimes the truth you keep avoiding becomes the pain you eventually can't escape anymore.